Rob, I see the markets have turned positive. Any piece of news that has helped buoy sentiment at this point?
No, not really. I think obviously a very positive day yesterday. We were up over 800 points. So initially a little bit of profit taking came in this morning, which puts us negative. I think also we're getting close to quarter end. So I think some of the funds are starting to buy up a little bit and trying to protect a little bit of a gain that they had in the last few days. So I think a lot of short covering coming in, and as well as quarter end some buying as well. So that's why we've turned positive, but no real news on the policy front.
Let's take a look at what's taking place in Europe, because of course that continues to drive the direction of markets and sentiment. Now the talk is that European leaders haven't agreed on the size of the enhanced European Financial Stability Fund, but disagreements between European leadership is not a new phenomenon.
No, absolutely. I think if they don't get it right this time around, Greece will default. I think that Greece themselves are trying to make quite a big impact on the austerity. They've just passed a property tax, which is very positive for them on the austerity side. So I think that Greece does look like they're coming to the party and helping there. So I think if the Europeans don't come with something substantial, there's a very big risk of a default. So they've got a few days now where the world is waiting for them to make a decisive decision. If that doesn't come through, it is going to be quite messy.
Any data points to keep an eye out for today, specifically from the US, where everyone is keenly waiting to see where the growth is returning in that market?
Well, there are durable good numbers coming out in the States, and I think if those are slightly down or slightly up, it won't make too much difference because people are really looking at Europe at the moment. But if it's a very negative number, I think obviously that will put pressure on the selling front on the durable goods. That American economy really slow to get going. Unemployment still very high at 9%. So they do need some durable good orders to show that the economy is ticking over still.
Rand appears to be testing that 7 Rand 80 level, slightly stronger than the 7 Rand 86 it closed at. Do you think we could see some further strength from here?
Well, obviously the Rand blew out very quickly from about 7.30 all the way into the 8s as we've seen in the last few weeks. So it did definitely need to strengthen slightly. I think 780 is quite a big level. If it breaks through 780, 775, it opens up to 750. But while the Europeans don't make a clear decision here, I think that it's more vulnerable to the downside. So we'll have to watch the 780 level quite closely.
Another stock to watch on the local front is SAB Miller, looking to post its highest close since around 1995. That stock currently trading just under 270 Rand. What do you make of the stock at this price?
Yes, no, obviously they've done superbly well over the last few years. I see that the competition board in Australia has just given the go-ahead for their deal with Foster's. Obviously with the weaker Rand as well, it's a good Rand hedge. It has run quite hard in the last few weeks and a little bit pricey here, but over the long term, still a very good stock, something you must have at your portfolio even at these prices.
Yeah, let's move on to the banking sector. We've got Capitec, which reported a first half HEPS up 53% there. Loans and advances really the reason behind this surge in first half earnings. Going forward though, perhaps a caution with the doubling of its provisions for bad debts.
Yes, obviously bad debts are increasing, and they're really pushing out the amount of loans that they're doing to cover the amount of bad debts that are coming through. Long term, it is something you have to look at very closely. If they start to get high defaults, if interest rates do start to move up in the next year or two, how quickly is there going to be a turnaround there? In the short term, they're still generating good cash, good money. So in the short term, I think you can trade it. If you're looking for a really long-term trade in Capitec, I would be slightly more cautious though. So I'd say trade the good numbers as you see them, but as a long-term hold, I think you'd have to be quite cautious.
Altec not as lucky, of course, in the technology space. HEPS for the first half down by 24%. That's 156 cents per share that came in. Revenue for the period was flat. Going forward, do you think we could expect a turnaround in the second half of the year or much the same?
Looking briefly at those numbers in the last few minutes, it does look like one or two of the items are one-off items that push those numbers down, and they did get growth through most of their different sectors. On the cellular side, AutoPage did relatively well. Their costs came down slightly and they grew their base. So on the cellular side, they're looking quite good. I think on the Netstar side, they're also looking good growth into Africa. So I think there will be quite a good turnaround, and I think it's something to look at going forward. If they can get the contracts into Africa that they're looking for, I think it is something to look at going forward there is growth there for Altron.
What do you make of its purchase of Germany's Set1, which manufactures parts used in the digital set-top boxes?
I haven't looked at it in detail, but obviously that anything that gathers growth for the company, it will be quite good. But I haven't looked at that sector that closely yet, so I can't really comment on that one.
Let's move on to the commodities quickly. We saw a rally in commodities yesterday, copper pulling back today. Oil is pretty much flat, slightly down at this point. Where do you see commodities going from here?
I think there's a few holidays in China at the moment, so I think we've seen a bit of a dip in demand on the Chinese side, so a little bit weaker. I think in general, with the dollar strengthening, it's putting pressure on some of those prices. But I think commodities are still going to be firm while the Europeans settle what is going on with Greece. If they do settle it and it comes out relatively positive, I think we're going to have firm commodity prices till the end of the year.
Now, Metarex, of course, is being bought out by Chinese Jinhuan, but there were some concerns about Metarex and its operations over in Zambia with the new president there. Those concerns appear to have been settled by the new Zambian president, saying that they won't be changing mining laws anytime soon in the country dramatically.
Yes, I think that's quite positive for them. I think also that the biggest portion of the mine is in Congo, not in Zambia, but it was definitely something that impacted a lot of the other copper mines on the exchange. A lot of copper mines that are listed, dual listed in Zambia and Toronto, they took quite a big beating before that. So I think it's very positive for Metarex. The other issue there was a very big pullback in the copper price in the last week or two. Also put a bit of pressure on that deal. But at the moment, copper still in the nearly $7,000. And looking relatively firm. I think that deal was quite good. Obviously a high risk trade, trading something with a corporate action like this, but we do see some buying coming in at these R8 level. Obviously the deal's at $8.90 probably in late December, so there is something to look for there, but a high risk trade.